Yep.
It is.
Is my comment?
Wait. In your mic.
Get your own table. Woo.
Same thing, so like, see,
Yeah, so you're not sitting with your back to everybody. Hi, we're running just a little bit late, all you people on Zoom land, so I'm gonna pause the recording until everybody gets going here. It's recording.
Okay then. Okay then, call to order and verification meeting notice.
Posted on the web.
Okay, two then, roll call.
Mr. Brown.
Here.
Mr. Brisboy.
Here.
Mr. Starion. Here. Mr. Lewis.
Here.
Mr. Manning.
Here.
Mrs. Peterson.
Here,
Mrs. Rose.
Okay, then three, approval of the agenda.
Also move.
Been moved by Mr. Brisboy to approve the agenda as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Ferriens. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
aye.
Any opposed? Agenda is approved then. Four, then approval of the minutes of the January 11th meeting.
I would make a motion that we approve the minutes.
Moved by Mrs. Peterson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Brisboy. All in favor of approving the minutes of the January 11th meeting as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes in. Five, then citizens forum. Any citizens wishing to speak? Anybody on Zoom? Any comments there?
There are 12 people on Zoom.
Nobody typed anything in that they wanted to say?
Nope.
Okay. Seeing none then, we'll move on. Six then, committee reports and minutes. 6-1, finance and personnel from earlier this evening.
Okay, we met earlier, like Steve said, and we went over some checks. We had a check to Precision Complete Control for the bus garage boiler for $1,543.63. The regulator was not working. So that was replaced and everything's up and running now. 51206 to Diners Club. It was weekend certified support staff services for $1,065. It was more just an explanation to tell us what that was for. 51214 integrated comprehensive system. This is the Equity Digital Modular Lifetime subscription, and it was for $700, but it is part of the RPIT grant. 51218 Compass Care software and service subscription for $1,260. This gives our teachers the ability to type in the time that they spend with the special ed students so that we qualify for Medicare. So it's a special program for that. And just as we all go through this COVID, we did have a check to Northwoods for wipes for $1,218.78. So we are still sanitizing. 51232 sources of strength for $2,500. This is for some more ongoing training, and that is all covered with a grant. 51245 to CDI Computers, 25 replacement Chromebooks, or we bought 25 Chromebooks to replace some of ours that are damaged. And then also $1,138 for cameras for across the computers in Mr. Tupran and Ms. Durkin's room. 51257, Katrina Johnson. She is part of the grant, and we had 2 months worth of payment to her for $3,470. 51262 to Olson Trucking. This was for gravel, lime, boulders, for the playground area, for that outdoor amphitheater, lime for the softball field. It also included, widening the road where the buses are. And that was for $10,814. But we need to note that all the labor was donated. So that was all, that was donated, which was really nice. 51268, sign me up. Member solution, this is that equity virtual. There's a two different trainings that have gone on. It was for $6,445. That's also part of the RPIC grant. We had another 51269, sources of strength, and that was a travel, training, and support. This is 5,000. We believe this is Richland Center's portion. Julie's going to look into it, but it's covered by the mental health grant. 51273 Wonder Workshop, the Dash robot. It for in here in the library for $2,399.84. It's the kids learn to code. It's those cute little ladybugs over there. Those are the little robots. So then they learn coding. 51304 to Barnett Electric, bus engine heater control. Steve I'll try to explain this, but he did a really good job of telling us what it was. It's a master timer for buses that has been moved inside the building. So in other words, we don't plug them in outside anymore. And it can be regulated. It should be a savings, so it doesn't have to run 24/7. It will run when it's needed. Am I saying that correctly? And then we also had an LED light put in where we needed some lighting down there. And then just for the board to know, we had our CISA 3 third installment for $9,583. We also had our water testing for $900. And then 51327 junior library for books. And this, of course, had all been budgeted, was $2,762.55. We also talked about the asphalt, planning and budgeting for covering the new lot. We'd be widening out the bus pass, painting lines, taking care of the parking lot and all that desperately needs it. Building and grounds have also looked at this, and the bid was for $40,700. We also talked about the playground equipment, and we got a picture, and it has been suggested that we look into doing a really good fundraiser for that, or the possibility of when we get our second round of COVID payments, if this would qualify, because it would put the kids outside, and so there's that possibility as well. We talked about the memorials, and that picture, you have that to bring up something that's more permanent. We haven't had the best of luck with people that have planted trees in memory of their family memories. They're not a real good survival rate. And so to do something more where then they purchase a stone or whatever, plus it could also serve again as a outside classroom or outside seating area for our students. Discussion on the fire system upgrade, which it needs to be done. We were told the fire alarms are going off on a regular basis, and that is $4,800. And then we looked at contracts for teachers, administration, and IT can be salaried, so they're going to look into that and bring that back to us, and then support staff realignment. Did I miss anything?
I think you got it.
No, Google.
Yeah, we covered a lot. Any questions, concerns for finance and personnel? Seeing none, hearing none. 6.2 then, buildings and grounds from January 13th.
We met, the Building and Grounds Committee met, we discussed and reviewed the planning for the asphalt, looking over the costs of the new parking lot or asphalting the parking lot and parking areas. And then under continued business, and also discussed the capital, what I call the capital improvement plan or the capital planning document, discussed what items have been completed and what, if anything, we need to continue to put. I mean, we're continuing to work on items, but then if there was any new items we placed under there. Under new business, we talked about the playground equipment and the playground audit results and the possible fundraising needed to bring that up to get that to where it needs to be, as well as discussion on the fire alarm system upgrade and other matters. We had some other meeting notes and the grant for a new stove, and we talked about the memorials, the brick memorials versus, possibility of the trees. The challenge of the trees is talked about under finance. Then we went down and toured the community gym and the kitchen and looked at the new floor and the reuse of the cabinets, and it looks great. And then we also looked at the bus area and looked at the master timer that had been installed in the bus garage or the bus area. So then we set up the next meeting for March 3rd at 5 o'clock.
Any other questions, concerns for buildings and grounds? Okay, seeing none, hearing none, we'll go on to 7 reports. 7.1, report and discussion on youth for change presentation from the team.
So are Emma and Chris ready?
You're up, girls.
Yes, we are ready. Can you guys hear me okay?
You can
Speak up a little.
Speak louder, please.
Okay. Okay, so for those of you who don't know me, I'm Carissa.
And I'm Emma, and we're both juniors at Ithaca.
We are part of the Ithaca High School Youth for Change organization, and we also represent the youth sector on a Partners for Prevention coalition of Richland County. The Partners for Prevention Coalition mission statement is to engage Richland County residents to prevent substance use to create safe and healthy communities. The purpose for our presentation tonight is to inform you a little bit about our work on our community assessment as a part of taking meaningful steps towards community change. We have 2 goals. 1, to increase community collaboration, and 2, to reduce youth substance use.
The fact is, substance use is impacting many of my peers and their families. We would like to do something about this. We have learned that communities can create long-term positive change. When people come together to identify risk factors and take steps to reduce those risks, we can create a positive change within our community.
Research indicates that the age a person starts contributes to whether they develop a problem down the road or not. Most of the time, a substance use disorder begins with alcohol, tobacco, marijuana, and RX drugs, usually in that order.
Research further indicates that where someone lives influences their choices. Imagine a frog in a pond. When the frog does not look well, isn't jumping or croaking normally, we might take the frog out of the pond and provide care to the frog. What we also need to consider is the quality of the water in the pond. That frog will never get better if it goes back into a dirty pond. Therefore, it is the role of a community coalition to carefully analyze what is going on in the community and work toward changing local conditions to keep the individuals healthy. Local problems require local solutions.
As a coalition, we have begun collecting information for an action plan specifically for our community. As part of this collection process, we have been trained to facilitate peer focus groups. We both have practiced and feel prepared to conduct these important focus groups. In the next few weeks, we would like to implement this strategy. The main purpose is to be intentional and strategic as we plan for positive community change.
Are there any questions from you guys?
So I want to say thank you to the young ladies for being a part of this. They are working with the DCF grant, which is the $100,000 one from the county, but they're also part of our Youth for Change here. And the biggest thing about all grants is you need data. And so them doing these focus groups will give us data to move us forward, to figure out where the issues are in Ithaca when it comes to drugs and alcohol, and help us combat that.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
guys. Is there anything that we need to do to move forward, or just, this is more just informational now and then?
We'll probably, when we get results, we'll probably share the results or, you know.
Please, Steve.
And just know as adults, this is hard for teens to address their peers in things that are socially acceptable. So it will be, you know, there might be a little bit of unsettlement as they ask questions and things, you know.
Well, it's hard for adults to address adults.
Right.
so,
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice job.
Yep, thank you, guys. Any other
Thank
questions
you.
on that? Okay. 7.2 then, district administrators report.
My report this week today, I just wanted to let you know that they have created a digital equity public portal, and that's linked here. And if you want to look at it, you click, you go to the top of the page, click digital equity, and then click it again. And I'll have to do twice. And then there's also a map that if you click here, you can see what it looks like across the state. Of the students that reported in Ithaca and parents and families, and the students that do not have home internet access, which is only 5.9%. The ones that said they did not have internet is because it was too expensive, was 81% of those respondents. And it's because it wasn't available was 18% of the respondents. I just thought that's one little snippet I took off of there. Nice to know. It is quite costly to get good internet, especially in our hills and valleys. And like Ms. Shane says, if it's snowing, you can't get internet.
That's right.
And then we're looking to get an Ithaca tagline. So please click here to vote. Often we're open to suggestions. We're just trying to get a little quick tagline. So all you do is click, and then you get to pick your top 3. So the ones that were suggested, and these are by no means the only list that we can have. You can add other. The heart and future of the community, a tradition of pride and excellence, every student matters, every day counts. Just one of those little one-liners. Our mission and vision are awesome, but they're also very wordy because they're very good. And my last.
We are in the season of open enrollment.
Yeah.
And that's the reality. We need to promote Ithaca to bring kids in.
And then Mr. Lenz asked me to share this share this survey about the economic resiliency grant. So anybody that wants to take this, you can click there, or it won't let me click it because I already took it. So, but anybody, they really want to know what are happening to the kids in high school, or what are the high school kids planning on doing? Are they staying in our community? Are they moving out? Are they going to go to college and come back? That kind of thing. So
They really want to have a more higher output or input by the younger, the 17 to 34s. I know that they were, if you read the article in the Observer, but I saw another email about it. It's not atypical that the older population responds to these surveys more frequently than the younger, but we'd like to have the younger respond.
And I just this afternoon, while I was adding this, because I was going to put it on last week and forgot, but I asked Mr. Hess if he could push it out to the high school, because, you know, they can just open up their Chromebooks and take the survey then. Not a big deal.
So who's putting that survey out?
Regional planning, Richland County got a grant from the EDA to do this because of all the flooding. And so they utilized that flood grant to, Viola got its own because of the flood damage there, but Richland County got it because of the flooding, but the county decided they could also use it for economic development or economic resiliency plan. And so that's how it came from.
This is even more important to take because it's truly local.
It is. This is Richland County.
Yep.
Anything else? Any questions, comments? Okay. Seeing none, 7.3 then, business managers report.
My January looked like that on reports. So it was like, okay, which one do I need to work on next? Anyway, so, yeah. I don't have anything else to say. Well, we made all the deadlines.
I would like to point out that Mrs. Plunk and I are working on a survey for the new board members. We're going to submit some questions to them, get their answers, and she talked to the editor already. How many Christmas? Sorry about that, you guys.
So you're talking about election.
Election, sorry, that's what was next. Didn't you read my mind? I segued. That they agreed to publish some answers and pictures and stuff so that we would have some nice questions.
Anything else? Questions, comments for business manager? Okay, seeing none, hearing none. 7.4 then principal's report, Mr. Lechner's report.
The second semester is underway. We had approximately 14 students return to in-person schooling and 3 students that were in-person opt for virtual learning. Our attendance has slowly been declining. In January, our high school had 88.19% of students attending either virtually or in person. In January, our middle school had 86.65% of students attending either virtually or in person. Most scores are down a few points from previous reports. Pre-COVID, we're normally about a 93 to 94%. As far as our semester grade report, we had an increase of D's, 40%, and F's, 45%. That students earned from first quarter to semester grades. The overwhelming 2 factors are student attendance. It's very difficult to understand the material if you do not attend class. 2, the assignment submission. Many students had numerous missing assignments. We've had numerous discussions as a staff and with individual students on how we can improve these numbers. Hopefully we'll see that in the next quarter. In middle school, our second I-Ready scores are in, and they have shown great progress from our first test, which was at the beginning of the year. The middle school students had 59 students improve their math scores, with 3 staying the same. Some of the students made substantial gains. As with full disclosure, we did have 23 students that they went down, but the scores that went down only went down a couple points or so. And on the ones that improved, some improved 10 to 15 to 20%. Overall, students and teachers are starting out strong for the second semester. We're getting closer to filling our Spanish teaching predicament. I'll keep it. And on a final note, I would like to congratulate Jacob Manning and wish him luck in the upcoming state tournament competition this coming Saturday. Any questions? I would like to say on the D's and the F's, I've looked at a lot of other schools in the state and actually looked at a lot of data. We're pretty much in the same boat everybody else is. So we're just trying to do our best that we can find a way around it and keep engaging our students.
Any other questions, comments for Mr. Lechner? Okay, seeing none, hearing none. 7.5 then, principal's report, Ms. Shane's report.
So we have begun looking at the possibility of summer school, and before I advertise it, more discussions have to occur to see if we have enough interested staff, method of instruction, the purpose, etc. Teachers have completed their narratives about their teaching practices along with their student learning objective and professional practice goal. This is one step we use to reflect on how our teaching and instruction impact student learning and growth. Because of COVID and my role as COVID coordinator, for lack of a better word, we are late beginning this process, but daily I strive to visit every classroom to greet the students and the teacher, check in and observe the flow of the classroom and student engagement. We talk about all that students have lost this year, their loss of instruction, being behind, catching up. Each student is doing their best and the teachers are working hard to adjust their teaching and instructing to meet the students where they are. 1st through 8th grade students took the I-Ready diagnostic at the beginning of the year and again the first 2 weeks of January in both reading and math, and there is the data. So 1st through 8th grade in both reading and math, they increased to some extent. 6th grade math did remain the same as far as the percentage at grade level. So this percentage is at grade level. So 1st grade increased some in reading and some in math. So just to show you that, yes, there has been, it is challenging, but our students have continued to grow. As you can see, despite the challenges the students have faced, the times of all virtual, the uncertainty, students are growing and learning. And Mr. Lechner mentioned this other data with that's linked to student achievement is attendance. So the number next to elementary, middle, and high school, those are the number of students that are current according to Skyward, and then the percentage attending. And as you notice, elementary has a very high attendance rate and it decreases. So the average daily attendance, that means on average, that's how many kids are in the building in that grade band. So attendance matters. Students who actively engage, participate, strive to learn more than those who do not attend school, aren't engaged in the classroom, or fail to actively participate in their learning. Ms. Emily Zaria has completed the Master of Library and Information Science and Master of English Master's programs from the University of Milwaukee. I wish to congratulate her on this incredible accomplishment, all while learning how to be a teacher of reading and fostering the value of reading, working hard, and learning. The Ithaca Spelling Bee was held recently. Congratulations to Abby Plonka in first place and Aspen Young in second place. Eighth grader Allison Durs placed third and is the alternate. Next level is hosted by Purtis Sheen Catholic later this month via Zoom. Special thanks to Mrs. Huffer, Ms. Whitevant, and Mrs. Bailey for assisting Mrs. Plonka. That's all I got.
Any other questions, comments for Ms. Shane? Okay, seeing none, hearing none. Curriculum.
So our curriculum meeting was canceled due to school was closed that day.
Okay. Any questions or comments for curriculum?
Oh, and it's rescheduled for March 4th, I believe, 5 o'clock.
Okay. All right. Then 7-7 athletic director's report, Mr. Tony.
Right, first, all the winter sports kind of coming to the finish line. I said this a month ago, and I still feel that way. I'm very pleased just with the staff's dealing with the ever-changing schedules and the challenge that this year brought. Because it's, you never know. A lot of people ask what the schedules are, and I'm saying, like, as of looking at watch, whatever time it is, this is how it's going to be. But things keep changing with other schools, so it's obviously tough. But good luck to everybody. Playoffs. So with wrestling, high school wrestling, Ridge Valley Conference this year, so that was great. They were also crowned regional champions last week at Westby. We had 8 wrestlers qualify for sectionals that were held this past weekend in Mineral Point, and Mr. Lechner brought it up with wrestler Jacob Manning qualified for the state tournament, which we held at Wausau East High School. It's on Saturday, February 13th.
It's always been bringing up again.
So that's will be so it's great. And then it's just kind of finalized for the wrestlers. They're going to do the weekend of Team State. Weston's hosting a Scenic Ridge and Rivers Conference tournament because earlier in the year we weren't allowed to have anything but dual, and then later they said we could have multi-school events. We never got to have a conference tournament like normal, so that's going to be on February 20th. Weston will do that, so it'll be another chance just for wrestlers to compete, which is a good thing. Boys basketball, now that the records for 6-4-4, they're currently quarantined. They're eligible to come back this week. So hopefully that happens, and if it does happen, we have games scheduled Thursday, Friday. Thursday, senior night. It's home game against Ithaca. Friday is on the road at North Crawford, and they have their seating meeting this past weekend, and we are hosting Weston on Tuesday here for a home playoff game at 7 p.m. Girls basketball, their playoff starts tomorrow. They have to travel to Winewalk Center for their game. 4-8 conference. They got great improvement. This past Friday, it was their senior night, and they beat Seneca. And I know, like earlier in the year, I guess I didn't type it, but they beat Seneca twice this year. I think Bill was saying it was the first time in 8 years they won there. We're willing to beating Seneca twice a year hasn't happened very often. My 10 years of beating here, so that was a good accomplishment for the girls, and I definitely think that game was or online law. Obviously, the home events we live stream. So Thursday we'll have basketball here. Well, all events are. I just have an email link tomorrow to their social media. But either way, it'll be on there to watch.
Anything else? Okay, any other questions or comments for Mr. Tillman? Okay, 7-8 then, Ms. Bryant's report on the Wisconsin State School Board Convention.
Well, on January 21st, I got on a Zoom with like 310 other Zoomers. It's quite an interesting thing, you know, if you had a question, you raise your little hand up, you know, and it was interesting. They went over some points, resolutions that we had to go through, and some got a little testy on it, and you know, I was doing other things while I was listening as well. Like one of them, the first one was like a 1-cent sales tax for school infrastructure that would go for technology and a tax relief. That got passed through. If you want me to elaborate on any of them, I will. Another one is like on broadband access, making it more accessible to all communities. Because like some of them northern communities are actually worse than this area just because there's nothing up there. And then, so that got passed, voted like 97% passed. Enrollment, hold harmless, and that was passed as well. Basically, it goes on public health emergencies and other disaster emergencies and stuff within the state. Another one is, I didn't understand this one because I thought it was always part of education when I was going to school for it. Instruction on indigenous tribes. Basically went back and looked at it over the years, and if schools are teaching it, which they should have been teaching it when this act went into in 1989, but a lot of schools aren't. So they're going back in and saying we need to go back and teach this more about the indigenous tribes. So that passed. Special education flexibility to address emergencies. That got passed as well. It was like, that was a big debate because there was one word wrong. You know, one word throws everybody off. So that was a big debate on that one. It's like, come on, people. I don't know. It's this, he thought it was bad going to this. So it was like, this meeting started at 1 o'clock and I didn't get off of the thing until like 5:30. So it's like, worse than being there. Next one was an assessment and report card waivers. Basically, the school board support that public school districts should continue to assess student growth and performance using assessments and measures approved locally, and going through other legislation in the school year. So that passed, 258 yes to that. And then another one, like in a lot of smaller areas, rehiring retired teachers and staff just because they have the knowledge and stuff instead of going through and selecting new hires and going through all that, where you have somebody that knows the area and knows the school, and that got past 92% with some little issues as well. Superintendent evaluations, that passed as well. That was another, one, and basically supports confidential superintendent evaluations to allow school districts to continue to improve by providing confidential framework for the leader of the district to improve and allow. So that went into a discussion on basically, should it be the same concept for the principal and all the principals, or those ones higher above? And I think they just kept it as the superintendent level too, instead of the other ones. Next one was comprehensive school safety legislation, and that basically passed as well. And that goes into a whole bunch of like mental health issues, and that was another one where it was really basically having new and permanent consisting funding that allows the districts to enhance safety and security by supporting one-time and ongoing cost. And it breaks it down into like 5 other categories, like mental health, training of the staff, coordinating that with communities and hiring SROs. That was a long, lengthy one, about an hour's worth of stuff. But that passed. And then the last one was one that got voted out last year for no, and that was to change the school district mascots and logo imagery. So if you say like Riverdale Chieftains, change the image of the chieftain to something else, you know, or the Seneca Indian to something else. And that got passed as well, like 180 to 67 for that. There were no emergency resolutions or anything, so pretty much that was it on the main topics of everything that was passed and talked about.
Did you see any other?
I seen some people on there, just by their names and from where they were from and that.
Did you attend any other sessions?
I did a couple of them, yeah. It was quite interesting to get into those little breakout sessions and stuff. Interesting things to do.
So it was the 100th conference. I had to go online.
Yeah.
So, but the nice part is I've watched about 2/3 of the sessions already, so I can watch every one of them because they're all taped. So I can go back and I'm like, if I get halfway through, I'm like, I don't like this one.
Yeah.
Like, go to the next one.
It ain't so bad as when you're there where you feel like you have to sit through it because you went to it.
Not me,
You're
I
like-
get up and walk out.
That's why I always sat in the back, so I'm like, okay, time to leave. You know?
Or they schedule all the really good ones at the same time and then you gotta pick one.
Yeah, but it was really interesting. You just see the range of where all these school districts are from, and you couldn't even really scroll to see where they're all from without making sure you don't click your little hi thing, or otherwise you're asked a question. You know? And because one time they said, well, let's click on it to make sure you're here, and all of a sudden, is so-and-so from Ithaca here? And I'm like, well, yeah, you told me to click on to see if you're here. And I'm like, okay. So I turn my little hand off, you know, and it's like, sometimes you just want to get on there and say, come on, but then somebody will break into a question and say, I want to amend the question, so that stops all the debate. So I'm like, somebody please do that, you know? So, but yeah, it's an interesting, the only thing you miss is like the vendor things, where all these vendor things, that is what's really interesting to see. So you missed that this year, but we'll look to it next year, hopefully.
Yeah, I usually come back with a bag full of squishy toys, and that's where I get all my prices.
This year comes out.
Yeah, that's what you guys do. That's why I gave them all out this year, so.
Any other questions or comments? We thank you for taking the time doing that. Like I said, I've done that in the past. I would recommend to any board members that are interested in going, even if you go down for just one day, there's some very interesting sessions that are going on. There's usually, like 10 or 15 going on at one time, all broke out through the building, so that they touch on unbelievable amount of different subjects, and they're very interesting to go and see how different school districts of different sizes have attacked different projects and different problem areas and that. So it's really interesting to see how they do that. So I recommend that to anybody. It's time well spent. It's usually always in January sometime in there, and the weather is typically not very good, so it's a good time to do that. So
Always a storm.
yeah. So in another year, if there are other, even just not the board representative, I encourage other members to go. It's a good learning experience. Thank you for your time and report on that. Any questions on that? Okay, if not, 8:10 old business, 8:1 learning modalities, 8:11 discussion possible action on learning modalities.
I'd like to keep everything just like it is. It's going really well, and I think everybody's in the groove now, so, but I always have to bring it up and tell you guys how it's going.
And numbers in the county are down, as far as I know, and numbers in the building are down, is way down.
Any questions, comments? Okay. And then seeing that, we'll move on. 8:12 then discussion possible action on masking.
Because of the hullabaloo in the state legislature, I thought I'd put this on here. It is built into our plan that everybody in the building will be wearing a mask unless they're in a room by themselves. I don't want to change that. I want it to stay exactly the same, because I feel like it's a very good way to stay safe. So, but again, another discussion point that if anybody wants to bring anything up, that they can.
questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, hearing none. 8.2 then, discussion possible action on Florida band trip.
Well, here we are again. So although I know I had sat with Kathleen and we talked to the county nurse last Wednesday or so. And I know that she doesn't, her recommendation is, I wouldn't go on a trip. I do want to kind of just bring up, just because I guess I do feel bad about the kids not getting a trip. And so I do want to kind of tell you kind of how things have progressed and let you have some information. So after being unable to travel last March, I tried to reschedule a course in June and July, and we couldn't get in to parks, and it wasn't a good time, of course, to go. So then I tentatively scheduled it during our upcoming spring break, March 27th to April 2nd. About 3 weeks ago, I received information from Disney World that they were not letting large groups of people in. They're at 35% capacity, but they're not letting like a bunch of kids. She says, family of 10 or something, okay, we see their family, we'll let them in. But she said, as for a large group, we won't let you in even. So then I was like, what do we do now if we would go? So I contacted the travel company, Progressive Travel. They actually did the following trip last year, which they were coming back from their trip right when we had to cancel ours. They didn't go to Disney last year. So they suggested this, and it comes out to the same price. 1 day at SeaWorld, 2 days at Universal Studios, which includes the Islands of Adventure, the actual Universal Studios, and then also the water park that I guess has been built since I didn't know it existed. So 1 day at Busch Gardens in Tampa, and then an airboat adventure through the Everglades. See crocodiles or alligators, sorry, whatever. And then a trip to Cocoa Beach. I proposed this to the band students to see if there was interest in the trip, and then sent home a letter for parents to sign if they approved of their students going on a trip. I have 21 students who want to go and parents who will let them. Now this is quite a different size group than what I'm used to taking. I think last year we were supposed to have 76 students going. However, last year's seniors aren't part of it, obviously. This year's seniors, only one of them is interested in going. Some of them said, I think I'll save my money, going to college next year, and that kind of thing. And then freshmen aren't allowed to go on this trip because they chose to go the next time on theirs. So that's why, we kind of narrowed it down to just a couple. It's just basically sophomores and juniors. The students would be able to have their own seats then on a 50-passenger motor coach. They would wear their masks at all times. The motor coaches are fogged and cleaned every 4 hours when we get off the coach. They fog them, and they also go and wipe down any touching points that they find on buses that people touch more than anything. We would go in to order food at fast food restaurants and then eat outside or on the motor coach. I had 20 plus rooms reserved for a hotel. Of course, wouldn't need those because normally we have 4 in a room. So then I thought, well, if we did go, it might be better to have 2 in a room. So they have their own bed, not breathing on each other. So I asked her whether the hotel would go for that, and they were fine. So they said they're at 50% capacity. They have the rooms available. So we would go with 2 in a room. The hotel said that if someone would come down with COVID symptoms and that they would need to be quarantined if they were positive, there is no problem in getting another room to quarantine them in, so if they're by themselves. All the parks are outside. They have safety precautions in place. I'm very impressed with that because the list that they have, they screen you for temperatures when you're entering, face coverings, obviously, at all times, physical distancing, cleaning rides before another person gets on, hand sanitizer before you go on a ride, hand sanitizer when you get off a ride. If someone comes down with symptoms, they will be taken in to get tested, quarantined. If the test comes back positive, it is early in the trip. Something that I thought of, a parent would need to come down to Orlando and probably drive them home. They couldn't fly, or they need to stay down there with them. If it would be at the end of the trip, then we would possibly rent a car, and those of us who have had vaccinations would take turns driving the student home. When we get back from Florida, the students could quarantine and be virtual for school so as not to infect anyone else. Right now, the parks reserve spots so that you can get in with those capacity limits. February 15th would be a time where we would need to order and pay for the tickets. And then there would be no refunds for some of the parks. Some they do, but some of the parks they don't unless they close down. And so that's basically it in a nutshell. So I just kind of wanted to give you some information on, before you make your decision on, you know, them going and what some of the things that we could do to keep ourselves safe. So thank you. Are there any questions? Sorry, I should have asked you.
So that's your recommendation?
Pardon me?
Is it your recommendation?
Well, you know, Kathleen and I talked about this. She says, why would you want to go? Well, and you know, you start thinking about things, but you know, I guess I feel like, I mean, I was near Melissa and I didn't get it. Or Jim, I'm not saying, I mean, you know, knock on wood, but you know, I do feel like, I think the kids that are going, they realize too that it's a very important thing to go with all precautions. And so I guess I feel good about it, especially when you're outside a lot. You're outside, you've got the air. And then, you know, like a lot of this stuff would be, you know, we'd have a reservation for getting on the airboat. You wouldn't be mixed in with a bunch of people. It would be us on a boat. You know, the kids are riding on buses to sporting events right now, and they're sitting by each other. And the kids tell me that. This way they'd have their own seats. So I guess, you know, I totally respect any decision, you know, because it's a hard one. I understand that. So.
What was the thought as far as this year, knowing that only one senior is interested or expressed interest in going this year versus putting it off another year, knowing that maybe at that point COVID would be more under control? You're really not, I don't want to be insensitive to that one student, but you're not losing a huge group of kids opportunity.
Yeah, well, see, unfortunately, we wouldn't have the opportunity to go next spring because the choir has their trip. And I would want to step on her toes. So that's was my thought is, you know, it's kind of now or never. Disney is opening up their groups coming in after June 1st. Well, June has, Mr. Tony said that June has a lot of sporting events right up to the end, basically. So that's kind of out. And then you're into July. And last year when I was trying to plan the trip then during the summer, it was really hard to get kids to respond. Even though they seem like they want to go, you know, it's just, it was kind of like pulling teeth sometimes to get an idea. I don't know, and it's hard to work around people's, you know, they've got work and they've got family trips, and so.
How would this timing line up with a quarantine on the back end? And I mean, does it conflict with any athletics that, you know, we're gonna have to miss out on spring sports or practices, things like that? Is that gonna have any impact?
It would if we quarantine for 2 weeks. A 1 week quarantine would be okay, but the baseball, I believe it is, or at least I think
FBLA is April 12th.
You would,
Forensics is April 16th.
the first,
what's that?
For the after 2 weeks.
No,
for spring sports, it would not be affected because the first days for practice for softball, baseball, and track are all April 19th.
Okay, I was told by a parent that there's pitching for baseball pitchers and catchers that would, if they were quarantined for 2 weeks, they would miss starting that.
But then that's a choice that they can make. Do you do the trip? You know, or do you stay back to throw the baseball or softball, you know?
So the only real conflict with competition is the FBLA and forensics, because those are a one-time deal.
And when are those, Julie?
Let me look back up.
You said the 12th and the 16th.
They're virtual though, aren't they?
April 12th and April.
But they get
16th.
together, the kids come here to do it, so they wouldn't be able to come here. You know, the teams,
Well, just our team, right? Because like, yeah, so it'd just be the Ithaca kids that would come here. So it's not like a whole bunch of teams from the area, it'd just be our team.
right, but they wouldn't be able to. They would be in quarantine at home still.
We get back on April 2nd, so.
What do you have for chaperones? What would your number of
Well,
chaperones or
right
parents?
now, it appears I have 6.
And is that, do you have like a normal number? If we have X
No.
number, we try and take X number.
Normally, if I take 70 something, I take at least 11.
Okay.
Besides myself.
So it falls in that.
Yeah. And I would probably try to talk my husband into going.
Richland Center did cancel their trip, I think.
I think so. Richland Center canceled their trip.
They did. Yep, they did.
Because they also went down to like 27 students, didn't they? Yeah.
Yes.
So I
I
had,
did already tell Mrs. Barrett that I don't think this is a good idea, but again, and Rose doesn't think it's good for the kids who travel out of state. But again, it's your decision.
My only concern with it is if someone gets sick on the trip,
Well, I know.
then it's really complicated, would be the problem. You know, in the hotels and with, you're basically with being on the bus with them, you're basically, the whole group is in trouble now.
But it's not any different than our basketball team getting quarantined from another, going to a game.
It is and it isn't, because we're not in Florida when it happens.
But
That's
like
the
as a
problem.
parent, if my child got it down there, I'd be willing to take that chance and say, yeah, if I have to, I'll go down and get her.
Would we
Again,
have
it's
20 other families that would be willing to do that?
Pardon?
I said, do we have 20 other, like, if we got 22, 21 kids going, I mean, I would want to know that.
Oh, yeah. If that got approved that we were gonna try to go, I would definitely put something together that they have to sign. To make sure they understand that. Yes, definitely.
I just wonder, I didn't think about it happening on the end, like the day before, the day you're ready and the kid is sick. So how do you determine who would be the chaperone to drive them back? Because if there's staff, well, maybe there's some that have been vaccinated. I don't.
Well, Chris Willis is one who is going, so I know she and I, also Chaz Burnley is going, and so he's already, I think, gotten it.
Okay.
So, we would try to decide, take turns that way.
Because that would be different, because the bus drives straight through.
They
Where a
stop-
car-
Yeah, they stop every 4 hours.
Right, but I mean, they have two drivers where a car wouldn't necessarily, or you'd have to have two drivers to keep up
Oh,
with the
definitely,
bus.
we would have, I assume 3 or 4 that would take,
Take turns.
because I mean, quite honestly, I could be on a bus full with 20 kids and it'd be fine, but.
What about the reimbursement of the kids from the first go around? Is that gonna happen or not, or?
Well, once we get, if we know that we're going, then we know we're not gonna get this money back. I mean, right now, I've got money in buses and in hotel waiting. We will get that back if we don't go, but that's the only way. I need to get that back in order to write checks to reimburse. I don't have all that money back yet. But yes, the ones who aren't going are getting reimbursed.
Questions, comments? Those of you on the Zoom, we're just waiting for Mr. Lecter and Mrs. Proudy to come back. Anybody else have any concerns, comments?
I missed part of the, so you said they have to do a quarantine when they come back? Or how is that?
I just suggested it.
Oh, you suggested it.
I just
said-
I just threw that in there as
Okay.
maybe that would be a good
Like if
idea.
the family goes down on a trip, I don't think any of them.
The recommendation though from county health, whenever I'm notified of a family going on vacation, I do recommend that they self-quarantine. That is the county's recommendation. They can't enforce it, you can't mandate it, but and like at Christmas time, we talked about that extra week after as a way to watch.
Kathleen? Like in Florida, have they gone down? Are they going down too?
I think that they have gone down some. I haven't heard them as being the hot spot like
No, yeah.
California was there for a while.
Well, Wisconsin was the hottest for
Oh,
a
yeah,
while.
yeah.
Sarah, did you have something to say? Sarah Nelson?
Yes, I do, Kathleen. I just had a quick question. Has anyone considered, or what would be the protocol if, let's say, a student were to develop symptoms like a day or a couple days right before the trip, and then obviously they were not able to go? How would that be handled? Would they be reimbursed, or what would happen there?
No, they wouldn't be reimbursed by some of the companies probably since we would have the tickets already. Although I do know there's been times when we have had kids who didn't make the grade at the last minute. And then sometimes the travel company has been able to get like an amount of money back for them. So it's kind of a, you try, but I can't guarantee it.
Right. That makes total sense, and that's kind of what I figured. I just wanted to check. So thank you.
Sure.
So we were just kind of put our whole discussion on pause here for just a little bit, but either Mr. Lechner or Ms. Proudy, either you guys have anything else that you wanted to say on this subject? So we would need some kind of action to give a direction.
So Mary Beth, if we were to say that there would have to be the quarantine, do you think some of your numbers would go down? The numbers that you have? Or when you presented it to the parents, did you present it with that we would be, quarantining when we got back?
I did not put it in writing just because I didn't know if that was possible. I did say it to the kids, that might be a possibility. The kids didn't seem to mind that. They some of the high schoolers kind of miss virtual because they were done at noon and, they're not used to being virtual all day like we are in school. So it might be a different story now, but no one said anything.
And as a parent who did sign that, because my daughter, wants to go, and if it impacts her FBLA or forensics, she will not go. Because if she can't participate with her partners in that event, because the quarantine goes into those 2 events, then she won't be able, I won't let her go because of that. And I don't know, I haven't talked to Louise or Katie to see how that virtually will go, but if the expectation is they come and work with their partner, then I can't let her go because those are big events as well.
So a question on that, just out of curiosity, 'cause I'm thinking like Emma she had COVID.
But there's a new strain, Melissa. And
Right. I was just saying, like, so for people who, if the students have had a vaccine or they've had it, do they still have to quarantine?
Mm-hmm.
Believe so.
Yeah.
Even with the, okay.
And actually, and we have not had Emma tested to see if she still has antibodies. She's past the antibody stage.
Right.
And there is a new strain in the state, so. And in Florida, you know, in the country, there's new strains, so. And she didn't know that, but she's on the Zoom right now. So she just learned.
Any other questions or comments?
So then without this, Mary Beth, when would be your next trip? Because it couldn't be next year because of choir. Would it be the following year?
The next scheduled one would be 2024. So this year's freshmen would be seniors.
I'll move to approve the Florida band trip as presented.
It's been moved by Mr. Brisbois to approve the band trip as presented. Is there a second?
With the quarantine?
Yes, with the quarantine. Underway after they're back. Required quarantine after they are back.
I'd second that.
So it's been moved and seconded to allow the Florida band trip to go on with the 2-week, the regular mandatory quarantine when they come back. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Can we just bring up one more thing? So then there would be like that contract presented to the parents if there would be an issue, that would be included as well?
That they would have to. So if you're willing to go down and pick them up.
That would have to, okay, yeah,
Saying yes.
yes,
So
okay.
that they would have to be willing to pick up. Okay, that would alleviate the worrying about the chaperones driving and getting a car.
Yeah.
Okay. So-
Can I ask you a question on that? Sure. Do you mean then just no matter what? So like even if it's at the end of the trip, they still come down to get their kids, we don't
Well,
worry about.
I would say there would have to be a time limit in there because if you're getting ready to leave in 12 hours, they couldn't get there in time.
Right.
So, yeah. If it's, you know, within a time permissible that they could get there, you know what I mean? You know what the time it takes to get down there.
Right.
And they probably not driving 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
So you're probably gonna have to double the time realistically.
So does that have any insurance implications? I mean, is the school renting the car? Are the band parents group renting the car? If that would happen, who's doing that?
Well, I was figuring up front, we are the band parents.
Okay.
I guess I was thinking that then can that be said in this little contract that they cover that? Because I'm even thinking if we had to get a room for a child who has to be quarantined, can that be put on, that would be part of the parents?
Sure. Like Steve said, if it happens the 12 hours, you know, how long it's gonna take to get down there? It takes
Right.
about- Yeah, so you need some sort of a backup plan.
Yeah. Right.
So the worst case scenario is somebody comes down with it within a day of leaving. You know, then they're gonna have to, you know, get them and whoever they're rooming with, realistically are gonna have to be put in the car and driven back. And
Yep.
and then those costs potentially would be on the parent.
Mhm.
And do you have a minimum? I mean, if you drop these new terms and 5 kids decide they're not coming, then I mean, at what point would you continue to go at that point?
Because would not the price go up then for those remaining students?
And that's the thing, you know, I mean, the price is, right now it's higher, but I'm trying not to charge the kids. We have money from the band parents, like when the seniors didn't go last year, there's money from fundraising. That fundraising money isn't given to kids
Right.
that they made. So, and there's also money from the seniors who aren't going, that's in the fundraiser. Plus, we have a bus that we're not paying for now, so there's gonna be some of that money there, although some's gotta go back to people who aren't going. But I'm trying to not make it more money for the kids, if I can help it.
I think it would be prudent to have a minimum, you know, just whether that's 15 kids or whatever, you know, a smaller group than that probably doesn't warrant that.
By us doing that here, it takes that burden off of you,
Yeah.
just to say where that cutoff is,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
that makes sense
Yep.
to do that.
Appreciate that.
So, since Mr. Brisbois has made the motion, with the quarantine.
Correct.
With the, are you okay with everything
I am.
you said in the 15 minimum?
Correct.
You're okay?
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I'll amend my motion to reflect that.
Okay, so Mr. Brisbois has made the motion with the speculations that we've had. Parents would be responsible if any other costs are incurred to get their students back. They would be responsible to drive down if there is a reasonable time that they could get down there. And a minimum of 15 kids going on that trip. Everybody okay and understand with that? Are we okay with a voice vote, or do we want to do an individual vote?
I just want to say, the screen is black. They can't see and I don't know what happened.
Oh, let me play with it.
So,
So you don't know if they're hearing what we're saying.
Can you hear us, people?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just that, and that's why I waved in front of it thinking it was, oh. So I don't know.
okay, so they can hear, so we'll proceed.
Hey, I have one question. This is Chris Willis.
Yes.
I had signed up to go as a chaperone, so I am assuming that Mary Beth and I, both as staff, are also quarantined for that time period after, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, so it's moved by Mr. Brisbois. Is there a second?
Yeah, second.
Second by Mr. Brown. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Variance,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Manning,
Nope.
Mrs. Peterson,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Brisboy.
Yes.
Motion carries then. 8.3, then discussion possible action on middle school football season schedule.
It's first to bring it up, high school, the season was approved, and then the last AD meeting, we had a conference schedule. And a few other schools were talking about not totally following it, because the current schedule is 4 games. And the last 3 weeks of the season are after high school sports start, but we don't have facilities to have football. If you have a baseball field, track practices on the non-baseball part of it, it's like, where are we gonna put everything? So I still think, I guess, it's a good idea to have some sport. spot, I just kind of want to bring it up. I don't know if anybody else has thoughts on.
Mr. Tony, you said the last 3 of the 4 weeks would be during that high school season?
Right now, with the current schedule, we have 2 games before high school track and high school baseball is starting. Now, it's set up where we start practice the 15th of March. Now, thankfully, if the weather's bad, we can't get outside, nobody's using the gym because there's no high school sports till April, so at least we have the indoor option. It's kind of tentatively trying to find a scrimmage April 1st that can turn into a game. There's something that says you can't play 2 games in a week to try to get the 4 to 5 games in before high school sports will start. Just like we, with our facilities in Riverdale, talk about the same thing, like, yeah, with facilities, we're probably not able to play this either. We just go as long as initially scheduled. Obviously, some of the schools like, Kickapoo or something that doesn't have the issue because they have inside the track, but they also have a huge grass area. Their baseball field's completely separate. So their softball field, so they just have the facilities to house all of that. I just kind of thinking, I don't know how that would work.
And where are we with busing?
So there's no high school sports going on then?
Oh, there's none, okay.
Yeah.
Not if we would.
Well, but it could into the.
If we play the
have
whole,
2 subs right now.
which I found out today, so that's a good thing for spring sports, because that was going to be, I was difficult, I brought it up last. It was just, like I said, I don't know if it needs to be, it needs to happen, I just wanted to at least bring it up for a discussion.
Is there a possibility of working that so the earlier games we play at home and the later games we play in somebody else's facility? Because
it could be like based off of how the schedule is, it would be 1 game. Because like the game May 6th, if we keep it, is at River Ridge. But it was also weird too because of the conference was like, let's start middle school track April 26th. Well, how are we gonna have middle school football going until May 6th? But then you're gonna start middle school track April 26th. For the guys anyway that play football, I'm like, are they just not gonna do track this year or only get a week or so of track in because they're first couple weeks of track season doing football. So it's like, I don't get to come up with the dates. It's just like, I didn't think there's gonna be all this overlap. And then we talked about it before Christmas and I was in the schedules came on, so it doesn't work very well for us in particular. But because right now there would be the current schedule, 2 games after middle school track is scheduled. Which obviously for the girls, there'd be volleyball and volleyball, you can get, that's a little bit easier to get games in because you can play 3 or 4 games in a week for volleyball, it's a little bit easier to do than football. Plus we'll be able to play right away where football we may not be able to be outside because the weather might not allow us to be on the field. So that's the other part of it too, is they can try to put everything too early that you may not have a field to play on. Snow or frost on the ground or what have you. I didn't necessarily be involved in it, I just wanted to bring it up for thoughts and possible ideas. Because I know some schools talk about doing that too later and a little bit earlier. Just try to move some games up.
So will you know more by the next meeting and then we could potentially alter the end of the season or something?
Yeah, like we could. I know my next meeting is the 17th of this month. It was obviously, I guess I definitely I was just trying to think if there's something I wasn't thinking of in terms of how we can make all that work. What we have.
So, anybody have any huge concerns, or we address it, it gets a little more clear next meeting, because at the most we do is cut the end of the season off earlier if we've got too much.
I mean, I think that has to be with baseball.
Yeah.
Can't touch that sacred ground.
Well, and it's even part of it too, like, yeah, once the games actually start. first week of practice, we have something here for middle school football. It's one thing, but like if games start and we have a rain where baseball's supposed to play, then you're trying to schedule makeup games. Well, that could play a problem with the end of April and May football games if we have to have baseball games made up. Rain doesn't all the first couple weeks happen or something too, so just kind of throws that into it, you know. I was granted the May 6th game currently on the road, which is good. The one on April 29th is scheduled to be here. But that could possibly even move too, so.
So Mr. Tommy, the first day of middle school football would be practice starts when?
15th of March.
Okay, and supposedly the last day would be?
May 6th going as currently scheduled. Okay. Any other thoughts, discussion on that? All right. If not, then moving on to 9 new business. 9.1, discussion possible action on bills and balances. So we had total receipts of $506,755.36. Total disbursements of $390,445.87.
I would make that motion to approve.
Moved by Mrs. Peterson to approve the bills and balances as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Brisbois. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Varian?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Manning?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Brisboy?
Yes.
Motion carries then. 9.2 then, discussion and possible action on holding prom.
Mrs. Behrens, you back up.
I have 2 girls that are on Zoom, but I think we're going to do the presenting.
Okay.
Yep, Emma's face is on.
All right. Okay, so the junior class met recently to talk about how we could possibly hold prom this year. The last year's junior class was unable to have their prom because of COVID-19. We realized that having an indoor prom will not work yet this year, with the virus still being a big concern. We would like to ask permission to hold our prom outside in the high school parking lot on Saturday, May 15th. The time of the dance will tentatively be scheduled for 7 to 10:30 p.m. Dave Banger is available to DJ for us that night. We hope to have a rain date just in case, but Dave isn't available any other Saturdays in May, so this detail will need to be worked out yet.
Students will park their cars on the new gravel lot north of the school, also in the old gym parking lot, and we would like to ask Willow Valley Church if we could use their parking lot to park in. We plan to ask more staff to help in monitoring the dance than we have had to previously at the White House. We would like to have a couple adults monitoring the parking lots and then also have a couple of adults monitoring the dance, along with adults who would go in the building with the students who need to use the bathrooms.
The students will not be allowed to come back once they leave the dance. This includes not being allowed to go to their cars. We plan to ask the Richland County Sheriff's Department to patrol the dance and the parking lot also.
As mentioned before, this year's seniors were not able to have their prom last year. Due to this, we would like to include them and call this a junior and senior prom so that we are able to have a court and crown a king and queen.
Are there any questions that you have for us?
Mask protocol. Is there any? Matching masks or anything like that?
Mask, he's asking about.
I've seen some sparkly ones.
Oh, you've seen sparkly one.
Yes, there will be masks.
Okay.
Have you considered just having this for upperclassmen?
Not really, because
which would limit the numbers. I mean, if somebody did have a date that was younger, but to maybe just have it be more juniors and seniors.
we hadn't discussed that at our class meeting just because we've never done that in years past, but we definitely could consider that because just the junior class alone makes up the biggest class in the high school. So having the juniors and seniors there, plus the freshmen and sophomore who would come, that could be more of a space issue. I see where you're coming from with that.
would there be any restrictions on outside visitors from other districts?
We do
Yes.
have, we have always had, there's a sign-up sheet that's always in the office, and they have the week before, they have to have that the person signed up, and then we have Mr. Lechner then go through it and approve.
I mean, when I saw the agenda, I thought an awful lot about that. And, you know, I was hoping that maybe they would bring the idea of outside. And then, you know, my feeling is that if it would be for the juniors and the seniors, now if they have a sophomore date or whatever, that would not, but that would limit the numbers.
Yeah.
Make it more doable and make it happen versus trying to have.
I know the younger kids really look forward to it.
But they will have it coming.
Yeah,
They have it. It's, you know,
Yeah, they do.
these kids have missed a lot more than what, you know, I mean, I have a granddaughter who will probably choke me, but, you know, she's a freshman. She's got 3 years ahead of her.
The other point I'd like to make is that student council is trying to work on something for a different time that could be maybe geared toward the younger kids, I don't know, but it's not the only thing that's kind of in the works now.
But the sophomores have missed out on just as much as this year's seniors and this year's juniors too. Because they didn't get anything last year either. You gotta remember their world came to a halt March 1st as well.
Yeah, but they still have 2 years left to do things. You know, it's kind of like if we get too many numbers, then we can't do it. So how do you figure out how to be able to do it?
Mary Beth, this is Julie Thompson. I'm just wondering how many typically attend prom in the first place, like in a typical year?
I guess I would guess 125 to 150 with the guests. You know, that's probably about 75 students.
I think the biggest issue is gonna get the parents to stay out. Because
We always bring that up.
they're the ones that tip us over the scale on the numbers. You know, when you do Grand March, they're all supposed to take their picture and then go home, but they don't.
But have like an official photographer and just tell parents we're sorry. We can't do that because we have to keep our numbers here. But we have an official photographer that's gonna post these pictures. And that way you can get all the pictures you want of your child.
Or a couple photographers, I think, they're, you know,
Yeah.
because it's always, that's how I look at it. One might not be enough, but keep it to a couple.
Just designate who.
Yeah, correct.
3 or whatever, but they're designated beforehand.
Would it be possible to live stream or to at least like a Zoom sort of meeting for parents to be able to attend virtually?
Oh, Grand March live stream.
I think
Awesome.
Grand March, yeah.
I shouldn't
They
say
might not
that.
want it.
No, I think
Kids might
that's
not want the rest of it. Grand
Haven't
March.
been there.
Maybe, I was talking, I don't, the reason we got some of the direct hookup setup is because the wireless wouldn't work well enough for a live stream, especially if kids there and being on their cell phones and all that kind of stuff, so I think it's possible.
You can set it up so that there's only a specific network that the camera or that hook up, you can turn everybody off except that.
Even if it couldn't be live streamed, if it can be recorded and played a half an hour later, heck, a lot of the live streams you're watching now are actually 20 minutes delayed, you just don't realize it, so, you know, there's a possibility of doing that.
Yep.
You know, and if it-
Julie,
Yes?
this is Sarah Nelson. I have a question that's kind of related to Julie Thompson's question. And Julie, Thompson, I don't know if you were headed this way. I'm just thinking out loud. She kind of asked the question about how many kids attend. Since we're having a fewer number of kids that are interested, you know, in going on the band trip, do we foresee that there would maybe be fewer juniors and seniors interested in going to the prom? I don't know how to think about this, but I know I respect Linda's point about too many kids, but I heard Melissa's too about the sophomore students. And I was just wondering, you know, maybe is there some way to kind of get an idea from kids about how many would go. It would just be a shame to say, you know, maybe just juniors and seniors, and then, you know, half of them didn't even want to attend, and it could have been opened up to other classes.
This is Angie Young. I just wanted to comment also, and I totally hear what everybody is saying, but of course, my daughter is a freshman. You know, I think we have to take into consideration also that these freshmen haven't had any regular high school experience yet. They haven't gotten a homecoming. They haven't gotten a winter formal. So I think it would be really nice if it was possible at all to get all of the students there that wanted to go. That would be great. I just think it would be something that they would really look forward to.
Yeah, Angie, I agree with you. With a sophomore daughter, I know she said, oh, we've gotten gypped of so many things. So it just, you know, just putting it out there that I think those younger classmen really want to try to be involved, if at all possible.
A large parking lot.
Well, 125 though. I don't.
What's that?
125.
Yeah.
If you would get that, if that's the typical number, I don't think the parking lot is big enough.
Sorry. 15-minute prom and everybody can go.
Yeah.
Sorry. Just saying, it's under 15.
That's why I wanted, you know, to ask more teachers to help and staff just to kind of help patrol that.
Well, you can have pods. I mean, you can.
Yeah. Yep.
So I have a question. So it's always in the Commons, right?
No,
What?
It's been always at the White House.
Oh, White House. Well, you mentioned the parking lot here.
Yes.
Well, because they want to have it this year in the parking lot.
Outside.
Because inside of any place you'd go, it would be the capacity would be limited.
Normie.
What is the outdoor capacity right now of an outdoor venue? Is there like a number?
Tony has
Yeah, I just didn't know where we're at.
I don't consider a parking lot to have a capacity, so.
Right. Or like what the.
It's any time a group joins, that's it.
What is their number in group gathering?
I think that just came out today.
I think it
First
did too.
just announced the recommendation. I don't remember the number.
And that might change by May
That was
15th.
quite bigger.
Too.
Was it?
Part of that, you have to realize, like, if you're at like a sporting event, you're gonna spread people out, you know, around it. Whereas you're gonna have a dance with, you know, people that are gonna be, they're gonna be clumped. And so it's a type of thing, you know, not speaking for everybody else, but it's the type of thing I would be very much in favor of trying to have the prom. I'm kind of reluctant to put all the rules and regulations on it right now. You know, if we can kind of plan and say, okay, you know, in a month or so, things might have to change, you know, numbers wise. We're trying to accommodate as many as we possibly can, but know that we may have to put limitations on it depending on what the situation is. And I realize
People might be vaccinated by then.
I had a daughter, I realize dresses are expensive and, you know, you don't just run and get them in the next thing. It's just, if we are gonna try and get as many people involved as we possibly can, the longer the time we have to put those limitations on, the better. If we have to make a decision now, my feeling is we probably have to limit the numbers. Whereas if we can wait and things change, you know, then we can hopefully open it up to everybody. And that's,
I think that, this is Emma talking, just like we did for Florida, we could get a number of how many people, and then based off of that, if it's too high, then consider having the junior and senior only. But I think it's a good step to start with getting a like raise of hands or writing down how many people want to come.
Well, maybe what we could do is do a motion. So, because I mean, this group would want to, they have to order stuff. But then with the understanding that, you know, we will follow the COVID.
Bring it back. I mean, but we could tentatively approve
that there
approve it for
would be
outdoors
something,
for Saturday,
yeah.
May 15th, and the times restated.
and possibly
But
the numbers and the restrictions.
We'll address the numbers if there's gonna be a number cap at the next board meeting, at a future board meeting, have it on the agenda.
Plus then they could have hopefully potential numbers.
Yes.
I was just thinking I could maybe put out like a Google survey to
Sure.
the kids, have Adam put it out and have them take it let us know if they're interested in going.
And maybe the number of guests is limited versus the number of Ithaca students. And that's a really good, easy way to do it. Like the juniors get to bring their significant other, whatever, but nobody else does.
Yep. If it becomes an issue.
Yeah, you know, that's the way to cut down the numbers.
So according to CDC Wisconsin's, they do not recommend large group gatherings at all. And I did parties and festivals.
I think it was Dane County opened up 150 outside, 50 outside.
That's what I heard.
They're the strictest.
Yeah, 2 months from now, they could change a lot. So I
Everything's moving in the right direction, right? So.
I agree with Mr. Brisboy's passing, setting a date and then with further information to follow, knowing that we could possibly restrict numbers.
Correct. That would be my motion.
Okay, so Mr. Brisboy's make a motion to approve the prom to be held outside on May 15th, right? Is that the right date?
Saturday.
May 15th?
Saturday, May 15th, 7 to 10:30.
With possible other restrictions to follow. Correct, Mr. Brisboy?
Correct.
Mr. Manning has seconded it. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You can start planning.
Okay, then 9.3, discussion on staff leave requests.
So we have had 2 additional leave requests due to maternity and 1 FMLA due to illness. So I'm just apprising you of that situation. They've been approved through FMLA, but you need to know that.
Just informational, don't need any action, right? Okay.
Don't drink the water.
All right. Any further questions or comments on that? Okay. Thank you. Then 9.4, discussion possible action on fixing and replacing asphalt. So we discussed this in buildings and grounds, and recommendation from buildings and grounds is
To replace, accept the bid, presented, the cost presented, to resurface the parking lot.
at $40,700. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
And we talked about it in finance and, talked to Cheryl, and we are in agreement because there are some areas that would be damaged with rain and things like that, that we'd be putting money into more gravel and things like that. So if it is feasible, we also recommend that we move forward with it.
And then discussion in finance, there, we feel that there is room in the budget to do this. We've had some positions that didn't get filled, and one was the transportation director position. We haven't hired a person for that, so the money there alone would cover this. So there is money in the budget to cover it this year, so.
And if we do it now, then we'll get on their to-do list. And so we won't be doing it in August.
Like May 15th.
Like May 15th.
May 14th, it's still hot feet that night.
All those nice dresses drag across that asphalt.
Still.
Hope that tar comes out. That dress.
Those could be some cool pictures all on all the equipment.
There's your theme.
Any other questions, discussion on the project?
So moved.
Mr. Manning moves to go forward with the asphalt projects for the bid of $40,700. Is there a second? Second by Mrs. France. Roll call, please.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Brisboy?
Yes.
Mrs. Varian? Yes. Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Manning?
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson?
Yes.
Okay, then 9.5, discussion possible action on playground equipment. Take it away, Mr. Lonnie. Or do you want us to, or do you want to?
I can just give a quick presentation. So this is the, I did a presentation at the Buildings and Grounds Committee. And this was kind of the favorite plan that most people talked about. But I discussed the need of our playground to be renovated due to safety issues, capacity issues, location issues. The fact that we haven't really done anything with it for about 25 years. and moving it to the upper playground for, like I said, safety reasons. And I got 3 different bids from different companies. They're all roughly about the same cost. This would be a professionally installed equipment, and the price is on there about $75,000. It does not include the bark underneath, which we have budgeted for separately. Machines the past couple years has budgeted about $2,000 a year towards bark. We can get it through them at an additional cost. I've talked to Randy Olson, and he has agreed to, amazingly, to get the area prepared for it if it were to be approved. And basically, we're just looking at, we need to do something, and we'd like to do it sooner than later because the kids have, in my mind, they deserve it. And I'm not asking for this for me, but it was easier for me to come here than 150 elementary kids piling in here and giving you their reasons. So I've asked a couple of kids, and some of them wanted pools and things like that. I said it would be awesome, but probably not going to work in Wisconsin. So they
can skate on it in the winter.
That's what I said. But I said I think the maintenance alone would probably be a little too much for us to handle. So, and this would be very low maintenance to almost no maintenance, brand new, and we just feel that it is time to invest in this. So
these are my notes, so I'm the one that liked this one.
Yeah. I have other options, but this was the one I went through and I surveyed most of the teachers, and it was probably 80% liked this choice.
It had the capacity for the most kids too.
Yeah, it has the most kids. It was kind of the middle of the road price wise.
It's got a spinning
Has a lot of
thing.
different elements, and then we would move the better equipment that's down here. We would bring that up there as well. So there's like 4 or 5 spinning elements that we would also move up there. So that way the area down here could be used for either a quieter playground for now, or if the need for expansion in the future, then it would be available. We wouldn't have to move it then. So I can try to answer any questions anybody has, but we're just kind of looking to see if we can fit it in the budget. Or put some money towards it, because like I said, the community has already donated about $25,000 towards the playground itself. I just don't feel like going back right now, especially with so many families, potentially struggling from COVID and having to take off work and things like that. I just feel like we need to kind of step up and help kids. So I can answer what I can answer. Is there any questions?
We had a pretty lengthy discussion on this in buildings and grounds too, and I believe this was the one that we liked too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we can make modifications to this. I've already, because I don't know how many emails I've sent back and forth with the different companies, but I started to lose track. But to just use this as like the base, and then we can change certain things and move things around if we want to. But this was the plan, like I said, that most people like the most. So.
I did not come to buildings and grounds tonight, but I would like to say that there's 166 kids in our elementary, and our playground is not up to par. When you go around to our neighboring communities, and I'm sure Mike explained this, we are losing out, and emotionally and developmentally, this is appropriate. This could be a draw for our school. I understand the need to fundraise, and we will be willing to do that to help out. But like Mike said, right now, this is not the time to go back to our community and ask them for more money. They don't have it. And if there is COVID money, or if there's other grants that are available that, we could potentially, I would ask that this be done sooner, like this year, if we could. The playground right now, when the spring comes, there's going to be nothing down here but some spinny cups, because the structure that the kids clamor over is gone.
And we are looking into grants. We can't necessarily apply for some until we know what the school wants to do. So we have
a couple that we've got like ready to send out basically, but we don't know if we're gonna get them or not, so. And I'm not sure how grants work, if it's, the school can approve it, and then if you get the grant, then that can kind of like repay the school, if that's how they can work. Or if it's, it has to be off, excuse me, off the top. So I'm new to the grant writing process, so this isn't my area of expertise, to say the least.
This might be a dumb question, but that $25,000, was that already spent, or is that going to take
That
that
has-
75 down to 50?
That has been spent already, so.
So we need to come up with 75.
Correct, yep. So that was towards the,
So the playground, as you see it, Joe, is PTSO has done that over the last 25 years. So the community has fundraised through that.
I think it's a great project. We talked about it, buildings and grounds. There's no doubt there's need. I think at this point, we just need to be able to figure out and look at the budget. There's some COVID money grants that have come in. Would have to look and see if it would fit in there. What's left in the, potentially left over for budget, for this year. So I think, we need to spend a little bit of time getting some answers there for hopefully a potential, what would be available.
yes.
Because I don't think we can't answer those questions right now.
No, I know that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think if we can just look into it and say that, okay, we've got, even 60,000 or something at the end of the year, which I have no idea. But then it would be like, okay, well, that takes care of a lot of it.
Yeah.
And then, to go to the community at that point would be a lot less of a, whoa, or if we get a couple of grants, a lot of the grants are 1,000, 2,000, so it takes a lot of them to add up. So, but we are in the process of applying. We have one that's almost ready to go, but we just have to kind of wait and see at this point. So we're hopefully gonna be applying for that one within the next week. And then obviously what we know, we should let you guys know, but a lot of them are done on like a quarterly basis, so they don't meet until a certain time. So my dream basically is for this to be able to happen this summer. And I know that's a dream, but I see it as a somewhat realistic one also, if we can find the money. So the companies have said that like once we know that they'll put us on their schedule, same thing with the parking lot. And, so, but I think if you want to generate excitement, especially in elementary, not that it needs to be generated too much, but you put this out there all summer, kids seeing it at baseball games and things like that. I mean, it's going to be like, oh, did you see their? Yeah, and then it doesn't take much. So, but to come back next school year, they would be super excited to have a very nice playground.
So I did email all of you the 3 pots of money, ESSER 1, gears, and ESSER 2. So ESSER 1 was 42,000. We basically spent that. Gears is the governor's one, and those first 2 pots of money have a lot of strings attached to them. We have to do specific things with it. But the ESSER 2 money, which is $167,000, and I'm pretty sure I emailed everybody that. Basically, there's a lot fewer strings on that. So that this is something that we could potentially pay for with that money. Justifying the kids need a place to play outside, that kind of stuff would go. But we're not through the school year yet, so we're not sure exactly what we have to spend all the money on.
But that money's an absolute, or no?
That's
Like
what?
160. Is that's unknown that we're getting that?
Yes, we're getting $167,000.
That's what I thought it said.
That's what we're getting, yep.
I think what we need to do is just kind of look into making sure that can be spent that way, because we don't want to commit to something and then it not. Make sure we know where that is and potentially look at if there's other areas that there's potential money and things like that coming in and then, go from there, because maybe it can all be paid for. Maybe at this time we can only pay 20,000. We don't know. We need to just get our financials together to know where we're at and make the, because it'd be nice for you guys, for us to be able to say, this is the dollar amount that we can do today, or this is a dollar amount we can do in a year, you know what I mean? So
Do we know what the turnaround time is When
They
you order
said
it and the stuff would be.
once you place, but it depends on the company, but this company, I believe it was, once you placed your order base, I think it was like 20% or 40% down. And then it was like, within 4 weeks of ordering it, they would try to arrange, obviously with weather and things like that, a window to be able to install it. So the big thing is just gonna be getting it improved, paid for, and then, you know, trying to wrangle Randy to see when he could squeeze us into his schedule, because I know he gets busy quick. So, and since he said he'd do it for us, you know, I'm not gonna tell him what he can and cannot do.
Right.
So he's been amazing to us, and, you know, we couldn't have done any of this without him. So, but yeah, he seemed like he was pretty excited about the possibility of getting a chance to do it, so.
Does he have grandkids that go here
He
right now?
does. So, but yeah.
I know his kids are too old.
So let's, you know, kind of just hold off on this so we can take a look at it and get you a firm answer hopefully soon. You know, we know some of these things and we can get you an answer so we can even get a solid direction on it. We appreciate all the work you've done in looking at this and pulling the numbers together and that. Any other thoughts, discussions on that? Okay, 9/6 then, Memorial. You want to talk about that? Mr. Monty or Mr. Brody about the proposed?
I can, if you want to, Mr.
Well, I guess, with the passing of Jay O'Connell, we kind of had a lot of emails going around and talking to each other about what we could do for him and also others in the future. We talked about trees not being the best. Sometimes they live, sometimes they don't. You have to move them. They don't like it. So my thought was, off of the patio in the back, there would be an area, basically where the cursor is between the windows, where we could make kind of like a horseshoe shaped area for the bricks that we already have, which you can't see in that picture for the snow, but basically right now they're just kind of lined up along it. And we would use the bricks that we've already purchased to create kind of a little patio area, and then we would get blanks. So then for future people, whether it's a retirement thing or just a general fundraiser, or in memory of, because there's a lot of different bricks that we have out there, this would be a designated area for that kind of stuff. It's an area that should be fairly safe as far as expansion. I don't see us building there. But that was just kind of an idea I threw out there. It would be a similar construction of the amphitheater, but a lot smaller scale, obviously. So the cost would be very minimal, and maintenance wise, it would be also very minimal. So those are just pictures I found, just to kind of give an idea of what I was thinking. It doesn't have to be what it is, but I just think it would work and be a nice place for people to visit, if you will. And a usable space also, try to expand the patio a little bit. We wouldn't necessarily have a fire pit on it, but that was the shape. So.
The kids sit out here already, well, not now, of course, but they sit out here on this stretch up
Yeah.
against the wall. It's nice and shady.
Yep.
But yeah, putting it right here would add a lot. And it's the idea that we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but we needed to take down trees for the new parking lot. Okay. Somebody needs to ask, whose trees are those? You know, we're scared to cut anything down or move it, and then if they die, it just hurts. It hurts people, and we don't want to do that because, you know, we honor the people that we lose, and this would be a good way to just make it more concrete. That's not the right word.
Well, it is concrete, yeah. Makes it more permanent.
There you go.
It's also probably gives them more recognition because, you know, you don't know that tree, you know, this is an area, you know, if you want to come back at homecoming or whatever and walk around, look and, yep, there's so-and-so, you know where it is.
Yep. I don't know, anything needs to be approved as far as education. There should be, I mean, very minimal cost, I don't know what it is off the top of my head.
motion?
I'd make a motion, we move forward. Whatever. That comes up.
I would second that, bring back costs and keep us updated on whatever you see needed.
I foresee that because the patio was partially constructed with the fundraiser of the bricks. And this Superford is kind of one that ran that. But I mean, it was a fairly significant part of the patio project. So any bricks that would be purchased for memorials would more than cover the cost of the actual spot. So the rocks are cheap and the labor's free, so.
So it's been moved and seconded to proceed with the memorials in the location out here besides the school. Mr. Monty coming back if there are any additional incurred expenses to let us know. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Thank you for your hard work on that too. Then 9.7, a discussion and possible action on fire system upgrade.
Went off this afternoon.
Yeah, we did talk about it at finance, and it is a necessity. It's going off, they're telling us quite frequently.
So I quoted you the wrong number. It's $4,480.
Okay, not 48.
I knew there was an 8 in it. I said it incorrectly. I apologize.
Okay, so it's less.
Yes.
We talked about it in buildings and grounds too, and Frank had told us what the problem was. It had to do something with the building project and the new building and something they're not talking right now, so that it's virtually impossible for them when it goes off to figure out what one's
So we
setting it
didn't
off.
run- Yeah, we didn't run new cables when that system was put in. They just hooked them into what was existing.
Okay.
And we're losing the signals here and there.
They don't like each other.
Can't identify which one's going off.
So basically, it's off most of the time now, right?
Right now, it's off.
Well, I would make the motion that we move forward with the fire system with the bid of $4,480.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to proceed with the bid to upgrade the fire system. Roll call, please.
Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Brisboy.
Yes.
Mrs. Varian. Yes. Mr. Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. Manning.
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson.
Yes.
Okay, then 9.8, discussion possible action on alternate open enrollment applications.
We do not have any.
Okay. Move on then. 9.9, discussion possible action on recognizing outstanding staff.
So this is the spreadsheet that we have from the school year. So Mr. Tomey's here, Mrs. Thompson, Mr. Hess, Mrs. Jensen, Mrs. Hilby, Mary Jo, and Mrs. Meyer, Mrs. Jones, Mrs. Brewer, Mr. Mesereau, Ms. Durkin, and Mrs. Uria. And I don't know how many of you had a chance to look at them, but why is this person an outstanding staff member for Mr. Tomey? Whenever I need a lending hand, he always steps in without hesitation and is glad to help. Ms. Thompson is very kind, and whenever I ask to post something on the website, she's always willing to help out the wording. Adam, where do I begin? Adam's commitment to technology for education in the district. Oops, there went my bullet. Has been pivotal to Ian having I can't read it. Look at my mouse now too. Here we go, now it's on the top. Technology 4, look at there. Partnering with administrators to bring in portable devices, ongoing, he works on site, from home, on vacation, in his truck, from a variety of locations at all times of the day. Troubleshoot or smooth out wrinkles, his vast networking within the fields of experts and knowledge brings cutting edge methods to our rural community. When he says he'll make it happen, he works tirelessly to fulfill that order. When our students and staff left the building last spring thinking we'd return to prepare to leave again, he sprang into action when the decision not to return was made. Writing devices, our internal systems, external networks, providing, improving accessibility, reaching out to vendors, calling, David, you're not gonna let you guys write this, sorry. Then and more so now, we quite literally could not have done what we have done, could not be doing what we are doing now, nor could we aspire to do what we want to do in the future without what he brings to us every day, all day. Even in times of personal crisis and loss, Adam puts our needs ahead of his own. Every student, every parent and guardian, every staff member has benefited from his generosity, compassion, expertise, and servitude this recognition isn't nearly enough thanks, but it's a great place to start. Mrs. Jensen, very willing to help me with absolutely everything I can think of, even her own time after school. If she doesn't know, she'll find out. She's a wonderful coworker. Mrs. Silby, one of the hardest working people in the building. I've seen her jump into action at the drop of a hat and reconfigure her schedule to help out when needed. She has also done a phenomenal asset in assisting with virtual learning classes. Mrs. Meyer worked with MJ in different capacities since 2001. Just today, she and I worked through how to change the elementary report card in Skyward. This hasn't been done since 2008. MJ and I worked together, thinking aloud, arguing, contemplating, discussing, and then realizing until we reached the point we were striving for, all the back and forth, what, if, how, about, no, not that, etc., is how she and I have always worked together. When I was Dean of Students, I wrote this one. I strive to improve communication with staff, families, and to hold kids accountable, bringing students into the office to see me disrupted her work, yet she knew that my end goal was important. Right today, she helped me think through possibilities to make what I needed to happen work for what she needed to happen. That's how she rolls. There are times when she and I greatly disagreed and even spoke in raised voices, but I now know and believe she wants what is good and right for the staff and students. I empathize with her too. I know I have gone through many administrators and she has even more bosses. Each one has come in with their own idea of doing things and MJ has had to adapt and adjust, often redoing something that was working and then maybe even reverting back with the next bad end. As I think about the day that MJ retires, I see a hole in the office. She knows everyone, knows the systems we have in place, knows our history. She has been a valuable member of our Ithaca school family and team. Again, I'm sorry for the wrong one. Janelle Jones is one of our new pairs. Her assignment requires the ability to connect with students who in many cases have an unconventional perception about the importance of education, the appropriate means to attain it, and the essential behaviors prescribed within a public school. In Mr. Meser's absence, Mrs. Jones's skill set has been illuminated for all to bear witness, and she has been performing magnificently. Mr. Meser, always willing to go to the extra mile, does a great job with all the other staff, has a really large caseload now. Ms. Durkin, the school is made of brick and mortar, but its foundation is its people, the full spectrum of caring individuals who have dedicated themselves to the welfare of children. By simple observation, one will draw the unambiguous conclusion that Ms. Durkin has completely immersed herself in the Ithaca School District and the students it serves. And Mrs. Aria, in addition to being a kind, caring, helpful person, Emily's outlook is always positive, spreading joy to those around her. One of her most famous quotes is, "Good things are happening." And these words truly show her approach to life and her career. Mrs. Aria deserves recognition for being an outstanding staff member through her desire to be a lifelong learner. She just completed her double master's, earning a 4.21 GPA while balancing classes with full-time employment. She is continually reading the latest research to help with cutting-edge teaching strategies. If Emily doesn't know an answer to a question, I often hear her say, "I will find out and get back to you." After gathering information about the question, she is quick to share her new knowledge with others and is extremely willing to help people find solutions to situations. Mrs. Aria is deserving of this recognition for being an outstanding person and staff member of the Ithaca School. So I'm sorry that I'm not making this decision.
In the past, what we've done, the ones we've selected, and we've printed off a certificate and a little frame in that, and then presented it to them.
So these go all the way back to 9/11. So we could potentially pick one per month. We haven't done them yet this year, so I felt bad, but there was a lot of stuff going on, so.
My recommendation is that I would honor them all. I think they're all deserving, and how you would pick one out from another, it's the least we can do. Anybody has any? Because we haven't done it, we were doing 2 or 3.
2 or 3 a month,
So we're,
so that would.
And I think they're.
I'll just date them the month that they were honored.
Mhm.
They were
Nominated.
That's why I like Google Forms.
Everybody good with that?
Thank you, because When I read through these, I'm like, oh, they're gonna have a hard time.
And we thank them for their service, and we thank the people that nominated them, because it's nice to hear great things that people do all the time. Okay, so then, any other action on it, any other discussion? Okay. 9:10, the discussion possible action on accepting donation of microscopes from Richland Hospital.
They called up and asked us if we wanted some nice microscopes. They were downsizing something because they joined. So we're getting one for the middle school and one for the high school. Very nice microscopes.
Thanks to Jazz Burnley for thinking of our teachers. And David and Chris jumped right on it.
Yes, they did.
So do we need any?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Manning to accept the gift of the microscope. For a second? Second. Ms. Burns, do we need roll call? Not really, because we've not. Okay. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries, and we thank them very much. 9:11, discussion possible action on committee meeting dates. 9/11/1 and finance and personnel for Monday, March 8th. That would be before the next meeting.
We ran out of time tonight. Do you want to move it to 6?
I was just gonna say, do we
6?
probably need to move it to 6? Okay. Let me get my- Okay. Okay, so is there a motion to set finance and personnel for Monday, March 8th at 6?
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Ms. Peterson, is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Brisboy, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, okay, it's set for Monday, March 8th at 6. So then the next would be policy, April 21st at 5.
We do have policy this month yet, but this would be the next. Okay.
Move to approve.
Okay, then moved by Mr. Brisboy to set policy on April 21st, 5 PM. Is there a second?
I'll second.
By Ms. Ferriant, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay. 9/11/3, buildings and grounds for March 3rd.
So moved.
By Mr. Brisboy, is there a second? Mr. Manning at 5. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, that's set. And 9/11/4 curriculum meeting Thursday, March 4th at 5.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, it's been moved to set curriculum March 4th at 5. Is there a second? By Mr. Brisboy, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes, it's set. 9/12 then, discuss possible action on next board meeting, 9/12/1, board meeting on Monday, March 8th at 7 PM.
So moved.
By Mr. Brisboy, is there a second? By Mr. Manning, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay, board meeting is set. Put that in there. Okay. Set for Monday, March 12th at 7 PM. All right then. Nothing else then. 10, adjourn to closed session under Wisconsin statute 19.851C for consideration, employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercise responsibility. 10.1, discussion regarding performance evaluation of district employee, teaching staff, administration, or coaching staff. We will be in closed session not less than 5 minutes, but it could be longer. A motion to go into closed session. Mr. Manning, is there a second? Ms. Ferriant, roll call, please.
Mr. Brown.
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Terry. Yes. Mr. Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. Manning.
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson.
Yes.
Okay, then reconvene to open session. Is there a motion to reconvene?
I will so move that.
Mr. Brisboy, is there a second? And Mr. Manning, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, is the Zoom back on?
Yes, the Zoom is back on.
Lots of people on it.
Mrs. Thompson's the only one that's still on.
She's a dart.
Yeah, thank you.
You get a raise. No, just kidding.
And the secret
I'm holding you through that.
Wait,
employee lounge.
She's talking to us about her race now.
The middle school track coach position, we just hired her.
No,
Nope, I'm good.
That's how you get all kinds of stuff like that. Okay, 12 then, discussion possible action on accepting resignation of bus aide.
So moved. Accept the resignation of,
And
oh,
it
sorry,
is
Dawn Willis.
Don Willis. Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Brisbois. Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Manning, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay, thank you. 13 then, discussion possible action on administrative contracts. We discussed some. I'll talk to you just about, we've got some clarification stuff we want to do.
Yep.
So I'll get a hold of you guys this weekend so we can move forward on that. So no action there. 14, discussion possible action on teaching contracts. And nothing right now, right?
No, unless you want to approve the schedule of contracts, which actually we don't really need that either. That's just really more for information.
More for information. So, okay, we're okay there?
Yep.
Okay. 15, discussion possible action on hiring substitute bus drivers. The recommendation by administration is,
Mr. Ron Richards.
okay, motion
That's
to.
Ron with an N and not a B. I have tried to recruit him, I don't know how many times.
Yes, we're very happy he decided to do this.
Okay, so
I'll make that motion.
Mrs. Peterson, is there a second? Second. Mr. Manning, do we need roll call on that?
Yes,
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
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 Mr. Manning.
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson.
Yes.
Mr. Manning, you seconded that?
I did.
Okay.
Is there another one? That was it?
Temporary bus, I gave you the sheet and
Oh, yeah, and it's underneath there. There we go.
Danny Variant 16, or I guess it's number
5 then.
5 on this one, sorry.
Okay, yep, discussion and public action on hiring bus aide, Danny Ferentz, for mornings at $9 per hour, right?
So moved. I also move.
By Mr. Brisbois, second by Mr. Manning. Roll call, please.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Brisboy.
Yes.
Mrs. Varian. Abstain. Mr. Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. Manning.
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson.
Yes.
So then 17, then discussion possible action on middle school head football coach. Recommendation is Steve Olson.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Peterson, second by Mr. Manning. Roll call.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Brisboy.
Yes.
Mrs. Varian.
Yes.
Mr. Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. Manning.
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson.
Yes.
Okay, then number 18, discussion possible action on middle school assistant football coach. Recommendation is Eric
The Bugler.
Bugler. Thank you. Motion to accept by Mr. Manning, is there a second? France, roll call, please.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Brisboy.
Yes.
Mrs. Varian.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Manning.
Yes.
Mrs. Peterson.
Yes.
Okay, then we're on to 19, a motion to adjourn. Mrs. France, is there a second? Mr. Manning, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, thank you. Did we get everything signed that we needed to?
It wasn't much.
I gave you the cross-country one, didn't I?
I got the cross-country ones.
Cross-country ones.
I don't look at that. So I just sign stuff.
I thought it was funny
That's how I
that.
got married.
Did you dig through all your pile that I
It's fine.
gave you, Steve?
Okay, the what?
Did you dig through your pile to make sure that, because I'm pretty sure that, I think cross-country was the only one I had. And if it's stapled, then you're okay. All right.
Yeah, but the worst one, the cross-country one. Yeah. Just on the back, and the bank one. All right, thank you. Yep.
I want to say it was 2 weeks.
Better make a note on here. Hey, Ron. Just for information for you, you get that every year, you just take it.
Oh, I wish we would have started my truck up. Warmed up.
I thought about it.
Yeah, hold on there.
Yeah, I guess
Oh, I should turn the meeting off.
Yeah, exactly.